Hello, it's Tim Matcham here, the property finance coach, and I'm here with Michelle Cairns. Good afternoon, Michelle.
Hi Tim, thank you for asking me on this interview. It's great to
Ah,
be
it's a
here with
great,
you.
yeah, it's a great pleasure. This is actually one of the very first interviews that I have ever done, so be gentle with me. I know you're professional with the work that you do for YPN magazine. Um, so I'd like you to start off, if you can, by just sharing with me a little bit of your background, how you got into property, and some of the challenges that you faced. So over
Okay,
to you, Michelle.
thanks Tim. So a bit background. So I got into property about 6 years ago, and before that, my background is a teacher. So I taught French and I taught Spanish for many years. I taught English as a foreign language as well. So I lived abroad, lived in France, lived in Spain, teaching, and never had any interest in property at all. It just was not something that that I knew about. It wasn't really in the family. My parents were bought their house, the current house 30 years ago, and same house there my mum's still in now. So it was just never something that I was exposed to at all. And when I was in the teaching career, I was absolutely, I loved I loved being able to work with the students and educate them, and I was just so passionate about the languages. Um, but I realized that it took so much energy to manage 30 students 5 times a day. And I know the people that listen, some people are thinking, yeah, but you've got all the great holidays. But honestly, it
I'm
was
I'm
just
just
really
exhausted thinking about that prospect. That would be my idea of purgatory, I think. But
yeah, it was tough. And the age group was 11 to 18, so a lot of
wow,
them were
yeah,
teenagers that I was teaching. And
yeah,
French and Spanish, as much as I loved it, it wasn't always, the feeling wasn't always mutual with them. So I was
yeah,
constantly coming up with these ideas
yeah.
to make it more interesting, make it fun. But I just thought, like when I realized my retirement age was 68, I thought, I'm just not gonna last. I'm not gonna get to like 68.
Yes,
And
you want to do some living in
yeah,
between now and then.
absolutely. So I just thought, you know what, like I if I'm not going to get to 68 in this career, then what am I going to do? What is my backup going to be?
Yeah.
And that kind of point in my life coincided with someone giving me the Rich Dad Poor Dad book.
Oh,
Now,
yes.
it's really cliche, and it's a bit cringy to sort of say, but I'm on the bandwagon with everyone else.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the way a lot of
it is.
people
It's incredible, isn't it?
are alerted to property as an opportunity.
And you know what? It's funny because I've done a lot of the Tony Robbins personal development years and years before. And actually, one of the speakers at his events was the Rich Dad. So
Yeah.
in the book, which I brought out, the Rich Dad is Keith Cunningham. So I've seen him speak a few times, and I must have come across all of these ideas and concepts, but I guess the penny just didn't drop until I read that book. I don't know. I
Mm.
can't explain it. Obviously, it wasn't the right time for me
Yeah.
until then.
Yeah.
So that just that kind of led me down a rabbit hole of the property world. I just googled property Chester, which is where I was based, and I went to my first meeting, and kind of the rest is history really. I sat in that first meeting and thought, yes, this is it. This is
Yeah.
what I've been looking for, and this makes sense to me. I can see how this can work for me, and I can see how it could either replace my income as a teacher, or
Yeah.
I could do it alongside, so I could still
So I was
teach.
going to say, but what is it that you wanted from property? What was your reason why for doing property?
Yeah, so I think there's there were two main reasons. The first reason was to get out of teaching.
Yeah.
So in the personal development world, you would call that a moving away from goal. So I was moving away from teaching, and that was my
Yeah.
drive. That kind of got me up in the morning to work on the property stuff, and weekends and evenings and holidays were just all about learning and learning what I needed to do. So that was it. But on the other side, the sort of flip side of that coin was the financial independence, the financial freedom. And obviously at that point, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew it could be done.
Yeah.
And I remember going, I don't know if you've been around these halls of fame. So when you go in some of these places, they literally have photos of people. And, you know, more commonly when you go to a seminar, there's a photo of the person, photo of the property and the deal and all these incredible numbers. And you're thinking, how on earth have they done something like that? In fact, I can't actually believe it. But there's just so much evidence that you think,
Yeah.
okay, well, there's got to be something in this. And then you meet people in real life who've actually done that. And I remember sitting in this seminar once, and at the very, very beginning, and there was a guy there, and he had bought 2 single lets, and he was saying that he was making about £200 profit for each single let. And I was thinking, my God, like, that's amazing. You know, well, I only need 10 of those, and that's great. You know, like, and I was saying to him, how did you get them, and how much money did you have to have? And he was saying he borrowed the money from somebody. And I was thinking, well, I could borrow the money and I could buy a house, you know. So suddenly it was
This,
all possible.
that realization. So how did you go from, you know, you said at the outset, you know, you had no knowledge, you know, your parents weren't involved in property at all. You could now see that property provided some kind of potential,
Yeah.
but how did you make that leap? What was the thing that took you from being where you were to the successful property investor that you are today?
So I knew that I had to get educated, and as a teacher and background with personal development, like that, I just knew if I sit around trying to figure this out myself from Google and Facebook, I'm going to be here a long time. And I suppose having sort of that background with the likes of Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and Tim Ferriss and all of that I guess I was very clear in my head that the best way for me to learn was with other people who'd been there and done that.
Yeah,
And I know, you know, that industry, you know, education training industry can get a lot of flack, but for me, it just made complete sense, because I just thought, well, why would I waste my time trying to figure it out when, you know, especially something like property where, you know, there's big risks involved, there's a lot of money involved, and a lot of the time the properties that you buy, you're buying for the long term. So
yeah,
I wanted to really get it right, and I decided that I wasn't going to do anything for the first year. So the first year I thought, I'm not even going to look at buying any deals. All I'm going to do is learn. So I just absorbed myself, listened to as many podcasts as I could, went to as many meetings, bought as many coffees as I could for people. I just, you know, one of my mentors, I found out he was going to another meeting, so I got the wrong train in the opposite direction just so I could meet him at his station, so I could get on the train and chat
and
to him on the way. So,
wow.
you know, I so yeah, for the first year, so I basically was an apprentice. So I found a local sourcer, and I just said,
Yeah,
teach me what you know and I'll work for free, and just do your spreadsheets and leaflet drops and all of these things. So so I did that for the first year, and he taught me a lot, and he ended up sourcing my first 2 property deals.
right.
And then I guess I got a taste for it then. And I still wasn't on the big cash flow HMOs then. I wasn't there. I was very much engrossed in the teaching, and still, you know, full time there, and trying to juggle everything. And I guess I just thought, if I keep going and I keep putting one foot in front of the other,
Yeah,
then something's bound to happen. So the plan was just to keep going, and that was it.
yeah. It's
So
it's 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 an interesting thing that you say that putting one foot in front of the other, because you see on my
yes.
logo, take your next step, which comes from me running the New York Marathon and having legs that didn't work after 10 miles. And I
God.
knew if I just kept taking the next step, eventually I'd get to the end. And you know, it's
Absolutely. And so yeah, so that was it really. And I suppose that led me to I liked the rent to rent strategy because I didn't have any spare cash at the time. I didn't understand about working with investors. It wasn't on my radar at all, because I thought, I don't have the experience. I didn't feel I didn't feel I had the credibility or anything really at that point. I was just starting out. So I thought, rent to rent, I can see that if I can
yeah,
get a few of these, it's a sort of stepping stone to to other avenues. So I did like a weekend course, which was brilliant, with Francis Dolly, happy to mention his name.
Yeah, yeah,
And that really set me up, because that taught me a lot about HMOs. It taught me a lot about understanding the rental market, what I needed to
yeah.
do. And then I'd like to say I kind of bought that my strategy was to buy anything that makes money. So I wasn't one of these people like
that's better than having a strategy that's buying things that don't make you money, Michelle.
right,
That's
yeah,
for damn sure.
exactly.
And Francis Dolly's a great educator,
Yeah.
with the right ethics and the
Yes.
right
Yeah.
thing. So how did you go about choosing your education?
Yeah, so I think I did a lot of research. So at the time, I was listening to a podcast. I think it's called the Inside Property Investing podcast, and because
Yes, yeah.
YPN wasn't doing their podcast then, but and they were kind of like short, just like what we're doing now, really.
Yeah,
And so I listened to many of these, and I ended up hearing Francis on that podcast, and then buying his book. And there was another guy as well that I heard, and he had 2 podcasts. And I just thought, these people have done what I want to do. I like the sound of them. I did a bit of research, and I thought, okay, you come across really well. So Francis was, I suppose, like the first person I worked with, and then another guy called Barry Davis, and
yeah,
I liked the fact that he'd done his own, he'd invested in himself, so he'd done the mastermind Simon Zucci stuff,
yeah,
and he'd started out small. He'd started out with the Rents Arendt and then got bigger, and I liked that. I could see that progression, so I suppose it resonated with me. It wasn't like he
yeah.
had like a big pot of cash and he just
So
gone on
yeah,
these
so
big deals.
it's finding somebody who may be in the same position as yourself and trodden the
Yeah,
path that you want to tread, so that you're not having to beat down the bushes because somebody else has already done that for you and can show you the way.
I guess I liked his ambition as well. If just each one was a little bit bigger, a little bit better, and he
Yeah,
kind of gradually made that progress.
yeah,
Rather than, I think that appealed to me more than somebody who is just completely focused on one strategy. I
yeah,
think that's great. If you want to learn about that strategy, go to them.
yeah,
But in terms of a mentor, I wanted somebody who I could see that they made progress and they were still in the game. They were still
yeah,
investing with them, themselves. And that
yeah,
actually, that was a year-long program that
yeah.
I did a couple of years, probably about 4 years ago now. And there was only about 10 people on the course, and in the end there was about 6 of us left. One of them is still my best friend today, and the other lady turned out to be Jane, the editor for YPN.
Wow.
So
So
you just don't know. I think if I look back, there's been so many opportunities that have come from investing in myself. You just
yeah,
surrounding yourself with people who were, I love that expression that uh, your goals are normal to them,
yeah,
and surround yourself with people who are on the same journey. They don't necessarily have to be at the same stage, but just that environment that you've got people who are striving for the same goals. I think it's just so important.
yeah. It's certainly helpful to have people who get where you're going to. There's nothing quite so demotivating as surrounding yourself with people who just don't get it
Yeah,
and don't want to support
so
you,
much.
and it's hard enough anyway
Yes,
to have people dragging at your coattails is
it doesn't
it
take
make
long to identify them. The conversation usually starts with oh, so what do you do for a living? You say, I'm in property, and then their first reaction is risky. And you
yes,
just know then it's just not going to go
and they've
well.
changed the conversation
Yeah,
before you've
yeah.
even finished the word property, haven't they?
So to be in it, exactly, to be in that environment where it's everyone's on the same page, and
Yeah,
they've got their own successes, they've got their own experience, their own progress. There's such power in that. I think, like,
yeah,
you're not your own. You can see it's real, and it's really inspiring when they have their
yeah,
wins as well. So
yeah. So after you'd done that
Yeah.
training, you went on, I think, to do more training. So you
Yes, yeah.
really invest in yourself.
Well, I just think, why not just go for the best in the industry? Like, really, I wasn't really planning to do it. It just sort of happened. So what happened
Yeah,
was I had got, so at that point I had enough properties where I realized the last one was a one bed flat that I got a great deal on, and I wasn't really going to buy flats because it wasn't really my thing, but I realized that the extra £300 or £400 that I could make from this was enough to get me out of teaching. And I just thought, this is it. I've got to jump now. It's now or never. I've got to do this. And so I sort of made that decision, and that was actually May. God, probably we're almost at the day, 2 years ago, where I kind of made that jump.
yeah,
And I decided then that, okay, now what? And again, I just thought, as much as I was like, right, I'm in property full time, I knew I still needed either another deal or another job, because it wasn't really quite enough. It was enough to cover the big expenses,
yeah,
but there's still more. So I thought, okay, I'm going to look at this, this mastermind. There's nothing bigger. It the reputation I'd been in the PIN community for many years. I'd volunteered at the local meetings for years as well. So I'd seen everyone
yeah,
come and go through it, and I just thought, you know
yeah.
what, it's
Just so
time.
people know, the PIN is the Property Investors Network,
Yeah.
which is the premier company, training company in the UK, led by Simon Zucci.
Mm.
So, and I did that same mastermind
Yes.
course a few years before you. It's a great course, isn't it?
It
So,
is. When I signed up, Simon's first words were to me, "It's about time, Michelle." I'd always been skirting around the edges, and a lot of people thought I'd done it because I in that community and
yeah,
with the people. So I thought, yeah, I like the idea of, okay, I've finished teaching now. I've got 12 months ahead of me. I wanted the structure, I wanted the accountability, I wanted a coach, I wanted a mentor, I wanted to be part of that environment. And I was thinking, do you know what? I was thinking, oh, maybe I should put it off till like the next
yeah,
session. The next session would have been like started in the middle of the COVID-19 stuff. So
yeah,
thank
yeah.
God I didn't wait. But I mean, there's an opportunity at any point. So
Yes, yeah,
the fact that I just got on with it and and just sort of took that leap of faith, because it was the leap of faith was leaving
yeah,
teaching, but also was doing that training course, because it's a lot of
yeah,
money. And
yeah, yeah.
and
So
yeah.
how has doing that impacted what you're doing now?
It's completely changed everything. Would I have done the things I've done without having done that? Who knows? I doubt it. I think it
Yeah,
gave me the push that I needed. It gave me
yeah,
that full focus.
yeah,
And like I said about, meeting Jane from the magazine, it it opened up a lot of doors.
yeah, yeah,
Things like, even they ran like this. We found out about this Sky TV. Sky TV were doing a, like Dragon's Den,
yeah,
but for property. And because Simon was sort of involved with that, we got to find out about that. And I basically put myself forward, as I do for these things, and ended up getting on the show and presenting a deal to the Dragons, which got accepted, and shook hands on 200 grand on camera. So,
yeah,
things like that, what an experience,
yeah,
an
yeah,
absolutely fantastic experience. I guess it kind of gave me the courage to do bigger deals than I would have not perhaps done on my own.
yeah.
I don't know if you know Simon Sinek. He
Yes,
does,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely, yes.
brilliant guy.
I was listening to his TED talk a little bit earlier on today,
Oh,
actually.
there you go.
Start with why. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I love his message. And one of his messages is courage is external.
yeah,
And this idea that, if you're in that group, like that group can provide the courage for you. And to be honest, like, just, the belief as well. And you've got everyone rooting for you, and wanting the best for you. And I think that's really encouraging. So
yeah, yeah,
um yeah, it's led me on to not just financially in a very different position.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to have great coaches, and like you mentioned earlier, Julia Barlow was my coach for the year.
Yes. Yeah.
So just, I think, those shifts in thinking,
Yeah.
shifts in, I remember the working with investors as well on bigger projects for the first time,
Yeah.
and that was, you can't, I don't think you can go back if the world sort of goes to part and I lose all the properties and I've got, I can't take that away. I've grown from those experiences,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
So
I
you've been in
know,
a position actually to go and do it
yeah,
all again
I think
because
so.
you've got that knowledge and you've got that experience to be able to run again. So what kind of projects are you doing now, and what does the future look like for Michelle?
Well, the past 6 years have been so full on, and I just have put every second, it feels like,
Yeah.
into building this. So the decision was January this year. I thought, right, okay, I just need to kind of pause. I just need to press the pause button and take a breath and kind of think, well, the goal was always to get out of teaching, but then I'd done that, and then I carried on, and then I realized I didn't really have this another really strong why, and that why is now kind of changing. So the plan was to stop in January, but then I found another deal, so as you do, I couldn't say no to this one.
So when
So
is enough enough,
when is
Michelle?
enough? Do you
Yeah.
know what, it was a great deal, and I thought, it's
Okay, why not?
why not. So I've got two on at the moment. This one's I'm trying to get through at the moment,
Yeah.
and it'll just be a 3-bed mini mo, like 4-bed HMO,
Yeah.
but it's a great deal, so happy with this one. And then the other one is a block of 5 flats. So
Right.
we bought it was 3 flats, worked with an investor and their SAS pension fund.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's been brilliant. And then we've added 2 flats to it, and that's due to be finished. Don't know. It was due to be finished in April, but who knows now? It'll get finished. It'll get finished.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that's a really good
But then
project.
things are starting to wake up
Yeah.
now a little bit, aren't they? So providing there
Yeah.
isn't the second wave that everyone's quite rightly fearful of, then hopefully things will start to return to whatever normal's going to be
Yeah.
going forward. So
Well, Tim, as much as anyone, whether the wave comes or it doesn't, as long as you know what you're doing, then you can find great
yeah.
deals at
And
any
and
point.
I think you touched on it earlier about the whole business of diversification and growing. And I think one of the lessons that's certainly come from me through this whole COVID-19 experience that we're in the middle of at the moment is that having all your eggs in one basket is potentially very high risk. And certain property strategies will have been harder hit than
Yes.
others. And therefore, if you're in property, to have other strings to your bow other than one main strategy,
Yeah.
but also to explore other means of generating income is probably a sound philosophy going forward, which blows some theories out of the water.
Well, it
But
does, and I was always really nervous about having like a massive HMO portfolio or Rents Arendt or service accommodation. It's like that for some reason it just didn't. It wasn't what I wanted, and although it's kind of happened by accident, it was, when I looked at that 1-bed flat, I just thought, this is going to rent all day long. Like, I'm never going to have any trouble with this.
yeah,
It's a great location, great price, and yeah. So I think I've just tried to do deals where it's been a bit of a no-brainer,
yeah,
and I think, okay, what is the
but,
worst case scenario?
yeah, but do it more for fun rather than because you've got to, and you're
Yeah,
probably doing
yeah,
better deals and
yeah, exactly.
because you're
Just
more
cherry pick
relaxed
the best
about it,
ones.
and
Yeah,
you can pick and choose,
that's it.
and yeah, things are coming to you now more than perhaps they were at the
Of course,
outset.
yeah.
So that's really encouraging, isn't it, for people just starting out who maybe not sure which way they're going to go and how they're going to go.
Yeah.
So just returning to the education theme, obviously I'm passionately involved personally in education and mentoring people and helping them achieve great things. But I believe you're also branching off into that line as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're
Yeah.
doing?
So I kind of just realised that. So I've run 2 networking meetings as well up in Chester, and I found that a lot of people were just naturally kind of gravitating towards me and asking me what I was up to and wanted some help. So that was one reason for creating that networking meeting, is that I felt I could help a lot of people in one go.
Yes.
And that's worked really well for me. But I just thought, do you know what? It's my passion is is from that teaching background as well, and
Yeah.
I've got this kind of mix of the personal development, coaching, teaching, and it's just I can't help but do it. But it's I thought I may as well put some sort of structure to this, so I thought I'll like yourself, launch an online training program where people can work with me, and if they like the journey I've taken, and what I'm up to, and then
So,
I've
so
got
what are
something
the
there.
what are the main focuses of that course? My course is very much focused on raising finance, raising private investor finance and stuff. Do you have a focus for your training? I mean, I know it's following your journey, as it
Yeah.
were, but is there a particular aspect that you
Well,
major on in
I
that?
think what I try to do is kind of pick out the gaps. So it's not kind of, here are all the different strategies, here are all the pros and cons, like other people have done that. This is more
Yeah,
about, I've called it creative finance, creative deals, creative finance, because I just think there are so many opportunities out there that people don't have to follow the sort of standard route. And what I tried to identify is where I've seen people get stuck,
yeah,
and I've tried to pull that into the content, and that's kind of been the basis of it. So for example, people getting stuck over deciding what strategy, and I've met so many people who they've spent months and years and they're still stuck, and
yeah, yeah.
and I've been it's
I
it's
was, I
kind of
was guilty of that at the outset,
well,
but
exactly, right. So
too many to choose from.
there's
It was
too
like a
many
kid
to
in a
choose from.
shop. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. So I've really tried to sort of tackle this in a way that try and understand, what are those blocks? Why is this happening? Because we're not short on information.
yeah, yeah,
We're not short on knowledge. So what is the blocker? So kind of that's one of the focuses. So there's 7 modules. So that's one of them, is understanding your strategy, but from a different point of view that I've not really it's just I suppose I've felt like it's helped a lot of people that I've talked to, and that have come to my meetings. So that's one aspect, and then also like deal analysis is another
yeah,
module where again I've seen people get stuck on the deal because they can't, and it's like they've got these tick boxes in the head of, okay, this is what I'm taught, that I need to tick all of these boxes, but actually what they want and what they're trying to achieve is they're 2 completely different
yeah,
things.
yeah,
They want the cash flow, so they think they're going to do service accommodation, but they don't realize there's a whole other business you've got to set up. um, so I think understanding deal analysis, but also understanding what's a deal for you, what's a deal for me. I think
yeah.
that is so much
I,
of it. So
yeah,
there's a
I
taste
think
of it.
that's it's a really critical aspect, actually, Michelle, isn't it? Knowing how to identify the right deal for you,
Yeah,
and what's right for you isn't necessarily going to be right for anybody else,
absolutely.
and so being just following the herd and doing what everybody else is doing because that
Yeah,
must be right is actually can be a fatal strategy in itself. So having a clear understanding of that is going to be really beneficial for
yeah.
people.
Just trying to like dig deep into those into uh, those kind of themes there, and get people thinking. That's what I'm about, really. Get people thinking
Yeah.
about what they need to do to
So,
understand how to move forward.
yeah. So is this just online, or are you contributing
Yeah, so it's
support to them as
there's
well?
7 modules, and you
Yeah.
can take your time
Yeah.
over those, but they're released fortnightly, and
Yeah.
then there is group coaching calls as well.
Yeah,
So had some
excellent,
good feedback so far. So it's exciting
excellent.
times to get
Yeah, and
started.
I wish you every success with that, Michelle, and your continued property investing journey, and of course the work you do for YPN magazine too. So, would you like to share with us how we can access your online course? And
Yeah,
I'll put it in the description below so that people can access that.
perfect. If people just go to michellecairns.com and you
Right.
can sign
Okay.
up there for some more information.
Perfect.
And
Yeah.
if you so you can either sign up there, you'll see the video, the content, or if you want to drop me a message on Facebook or LinkedIn and just tell me a story, tell me how I can help, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Michelle, thank you very much indeed for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you this afternoon, and I look
Likewise.
forward to following your success story.
Likewise. Thanks
Thanks,
very much,
Michelle.
Tim. Take care. Bye.
Bye.